Enough is enough. The amount of times you'll have told me that Beyblade Burst falls off after season 3 is ridiculous. I get it. But what y'all don't get is that this review series is for me to experience every season of Beyblade Burst. Not 1, not 2, everything. You're continuing to tell me that the series falls off after season 3 is not going to change my mind. Please stop. Not liking something is fine. Everyone can have their own opinions, but constantly telling me not to even give the series a chance because of your own experience is weird. It's annoying when before I even start a new season that I'm seeing comments telling me not to invest stocks in certain characters. It's weird. Like, let me experience the series for myself to come to my own conclusions. A lot of y'all seem to have this confidence that you know how I'm going to react to certain plot lines, but you don't. I get so many comments from people saying that I'm going to enjoy the Longinus Cup Arc, and guess what happened? I believe that arc is overrated as hell. Even the reasons why I love season 3 of Beyblade Burst are going to most likely surprise a lot of people. Y'all can't figure me out. Sometimes it's just better to sit back and observe. So AKABA AIGA did not let me down. Whoever told me that Burst God was the peak of the series, I disagree. Over the last few weeks, I watched the first 38 episodes of Beyblade Burst Cho-Z or Turbo, whatever you want to call it, and I was blown away. After the disappointment that was the Longinus Cup Arc, Cho-Z brought my joy back again. Lettuce, you won. I remember your comment because I've been having a great time watching season 3. AKABA AIGA is like the motion man of Beyblade. No slander towards him shall pass. The AIGA agenda on this channel starts today. Before I talk about my experience, I'll take a quick moment to give a special thanks to my channel member Loki Bentillo for being a W individual by supporting the channel. Stand proud, you are goated. So just like AIGA, no slander against you shall pass. Also, because I had all this time to kind of really sit back and look at my content because of the whole copyright situation, I kind of realized that a lot of these reviews I've been making, I've kind of just been summarizing each episode, and I kind of want to make sure I don't do that because it's more about my thoughts instead of just giving you all the summary. Hence, I'll be trying a more structured approach with this review. Let me know in the comments if you like this way or the old way, and maybe I'm just wrong. Now, Beyblade Burst Cho-Z is where the series shifts protagonists, and from AIGA's introduction alone, I could already tell that this kid had the aura for greatness. So with that in mind, it's time to talk about the first arc of the series, the Longinus Cup Arc. The Longinus Cup Arc is honestly the best introduction arc I've seen in the Burst generation. I received a lot of comments predicting that I was going to find the first couple of episodes boring, but I enjoyed every episode of this arc. The one thing I love about the Burst generation so far is that it feels like a continuous story that grows alongside the characters, similar to how the JoJo series will switch between new protagonists, but the protagonists of previous seasons aren't entirely forgotten. Volt is still an integral character to this series. Just because AIGA is a new protagonist doesn't mean that the writers decided to treat Volt like a throwaway toy. Unlike how the character has been presented for the past 2 seasons, Volt is the pinnacle of the Beyblade world, the one everyone desires to overcome. I love this because it makes the ending of Burst God feel very rewarding. The season even spends half an episode featuring a title match between Volt versus Louis, which unfortunately ended in a draw because the stadium couldn't withstand the power of their bays. Regardless, it was still awesome to witness Volt not be the underdog anymore. I thought the first episode did a good job in introducing me to the new protagonist and setting up the dynamic between AIGA and Volt. AIGA is someone who idealizes Volt's strength and holds this burning desire to defeat him. The fact that the dude went so far as to build his own Cho-Z bay from scratch with the sole purpose of outperforming Valkyrie's design was hilarious. AIGA is extremely petty, but there's also this charm that the character has when I watch him obsess over being the strongest. The best way I can describe AIGA is he's kind of like a more intelligent version of Volt. Like, he has more knowledge on Beyblade, and he has some of the best battle IQ I've seen in the series so far. Honestly, the more I talk about AIGA, I think a better description would be a Volt and Shu's character molded into one. Also, similar to Volt, AIGA is able to adapt on the fly, but once again, to a more insane degree. Alongside with AIGA having his god-given ability to resonate with his bae more than the average blader, resulting in his hair going Super Saiyan 3, AIGA is very quickly established to be an upcoming powerhouse in the Beyblade world. Now, first I was worried about how AIGA's progression and strength was going to be handled because I have heard a lot of statements along the lines of AIGA has too much plot armor before starting the show. After watching the first 38 episodes, I can confidently say that I don't agree with these claims. AIGA loses a lot, especially in the arc after this one, but I'll save that talk for later. I've talked about AIGA enough. It's time for me to discuss the new characters of this season. As I mentioned earlier, Cho-Z is the continuation of this world, so the first couple of episodes are just introduction to the new generation of bladers. Both siblings, Tokonatsu and Nita, are older now and they've joined the Baygome Academy Bay Club. The new leader of the club is Fubuki, the kid Shu was talking to at the end of the last season. There's also the second in command of the Bay Club, Suo. The dynamic between Fubuki and Suo is great in this arc. Fubuki is the average person, taking training very seriously with no special talents, so he believes that strength comes from hard work. However, because of Fubuki's desire to be a perfect leader for the club, he's lost a bit of his pride of himself, and just Suo kinda tells him that Fubuki, you kinda need to be more selfish at times. So Fubuki's lack of balance in his life is why he gets completely overwhelmed by Suo. Aside from Suo's one moment of solid advice to Fubuki, though, the man is pretty much an asshole. Now, aside from Fubuki and Suo, there's also Ranjiro and Hoi, who are just healthy rivals that compete with AIGA. They're pretty simple characters in this arc, so I don't really feel the need to talk about them too much, and I kind of have that same feeling with a lot of the fights pertaining to this arc. I don't feel the need to talk about every single one to death, because again, I feel like that's just going to be me summarizing every episode. That's also kind of how I feel when talking about the fights in this arc. I don't want to talk about every single fight to death, or else I feel I'm just summarizing the entire season. Climax of this arc is AIGA versus Louis. In the last season, I disliked Louis a lot, but in Cho-Z, Louis is awesome. His characterization is much more similar to how he was in season 1, so finally felt like I was getting the old Louis again. I don't know who that guy was in season 2. Who is he? Also, I don't really have an issue with Louis losing to AIGA here. It's like a miracle win that even Louis doesn't take too seriously. Plus, I think it's kind of hypocritical if I have no issues with Volt beating a bunch of top tier bladers in the previous seasons with like being a noob, especially in season 1, and like have an issue with AIGA, because as I talked about earlier, I think it's more believable in AIGA's case here because he starts out the series at a much higher level than Volt was, just knowledge wise and just skills as a blader. The series also has a running trend of immediately humbling AIGA whenever he achieves a massive victory. In this arc, it's AIGA's loss against Fi, the main antagonist of this season. Fi's voice actor in the Japanese version is Takahito Koyasu, most notably known for voicing Dio in JoJo's, and he puts on a great performance during this season. Now, I don't really have too many thoughts on Fi as a character. Even in the next arc, I won't really talk about him as much because there's just some crazy supernatural thing brewing in the background between him and AIGA, so I'm just gonna sit back and observe and see what happens. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for this arc, and now it's time to talk about the Bay Queen arc. So this is the arc I feel people will call filler. On a cruise ship where bladers will battle until there are 2 people left, with each person having the right to challenge Volt for his title as champion. A lot of the fights in this arc take place in stadiums with cool gimmicks, plus a good portion of the arc is structured like a game show. It's like I was watching a longer version of Wipeout. I enjoyed that aspect of the arc, but I can definitely understand why someone would have issues with it, because the meat and potatoes of this arc only really happen at the end. Now, there are 3 new characters introduced during this cruise ship battle: Laban, Kyle, and Shan. I did not care for Laban, he kind of just exists. In the same vein, Shan is quite honestly just a Shaka clone. While not as loud as Shaka, they do feel like the same character, so I don't really have a lot to say about this guy. On the other hand, Kyle is entertaining as hell, so I enjoyed him a lot. A lot of his fight scenes have really good character acting. So he just comes off as a troll who is just here to piss the cast off, simple but effective. This arc is also where Suo and Fubuki's plotline concludes. At the end of the previous arc, Shu offered him a chance to join America. So Fubuki has grown to someone who can take a bit more pride as himself as a blader and can be more selfish, but more importantly, have genuine love for the game, which is a big message in this series, staying consistent with your truth. However, as much as I love Fubuki, I do wish that the show could have spent an episode with him in America during his training when he was alone from everyone else. At the very least, I will say that when Fubuki beat Suo, I screamed. That payoff hit. The same feeling I get when drinking cold water on a hot day. Witnessing Suo get bodied made my day when I finished that episode. AIGA also loses a lot in this arc. There's a few episodes where the story even acknowledges this. You can really start to notice how this obsession for beating Volt and how Fi has put AIGA on edge. So through witnessing Fi destroy Laban's Bay, the intrusive thoughts start to take over. AIGA just becomes a masochist that thinks Achilles screaming in pain from a dark resonance is a proper way to go about getting stronger. I was like, oh brother, AIGA's dad was right. Although I kind of like that the show went this way to showcase why fetishizing your pain isn't really a good thing. After this, the show transitions into the most insane development, that Volt versus Dark AIGA fight. I could not believe that Volt lost and even got his Bay destroyed. In that moment, I was really ready to say Cho-Z was the worst Beyblade season of all time. My mind immediately thought, I'm probably gonna have to watch AIGA steamroll the verse for the next 10 episodes thanks to Dark Resonance powers. Thankfully, I was wrong, because the series doesn't portray AIGA's win against Volt and becoming champion as a good thing, which is why I love Cho-Z, because the story lets you know right away that AIGA's win was fraudulent immediately during the next episode. My glorious King Hearts arrived and brought me peak entertainment. I love Hearts. He's hilarious. When he challenged AIGA and was declaring his victory a day in advance, I had the biggest smile on my face. And Hearts does just that. His victory against AIGA was perfect. He made AIGA look like an absolute clown, which is why I believe this season excels when it comes to execution of a powerful protagonist. Whenever AIGA starts to have an insane progression in his strength, the show will immediately humble him. And AIGA's moment of realization that he is the greatest fraud of all time leads into the best arc of Cho Cho-Z so far. Now I can finally talk about my favorite arc in all Beyblade Burst. The Dead Grand arc is top tier Beyblade content. I think this arc might even be my favorite arc in all of Beyblade, but I might be getting ahead of myself, so take that statement with a grain of salt. After AIGA's humiliating defeat to Hearts, the dude starts losing his mind. He's gone from a kid who loved Beyblade, desiring to surpass Volt, to an individual extremely obsessed with winning. While I was watching the previous season, I spoke about how I enjoyed the series' depiction of the dangers regarding self-improvement. What Cho-Z does with AIGA is similar to Shu's Red Eye plotline. The series does a good job showcasing how on edge AIGA has been recently. You really get this energy from him that screams, "I'm running out of time." This is such a real feeling, especially as a YouTuber and the fast-paced nature of this platform. I always feel that I need to constantly improve and keep the fast momentum, so when I experience a setback or a video doesn't do as well, it does feel devastating. In AIGA's case, you can tell that his stress has been building up throughout the series as battles become more intense. As a result, he's simply not in tune with his emotions anymore. To AIGA, he's acting like normal, but to the people that care about him, he looks like he's lost his mind. So that added layer of feeling misunderstood by everyone around you is what makes the Dark AIGA plotline even more gut-wrenching than it already is. I also really liked how Ranjiro took on the role as AIGA's emotional support in this arc. Everyone needs a friend like Ranjiro. Sure, Ranjiro is what you would call a jobber. He's a great guy that looks out for the mental health of his homies. That really made me respect him as a character. I think that Ranjiro is one of the most underrated aspects of this arc because I didn't really see any comments hyping him up before I started watching Cho-Z. Now, moving away from the main plot of this arc for a moment, there's also some great fan service with Volt fighting against Free in order to get a better understanding on how to use his new Bay Cho-Z Valkyrie. But back to the main plot of the arc, once AIGA and Ranjiro arrive at Dead Grand, I could already tell that this arc was going to be fun. The structure is similar to a Monster of the Week series where AIGA has to defeat several different individuals living in Dead Grand, all in an effort to groom AIGA's Dark Resonance power to the point of destruction. And AIGA just gives in. It's like when you hear about these bodybuilders who go insane with steroids, narrow-minded people who don't understand that their obsession is hurting themselves and the people around them. Remember how I compared AIGA's plotline to Shu's? Well, I guess the writers intended for this parallel to be obvious because Shu plays a prominent role in this arc. Shu was the introduction to the Dark Resonance ability, so to have him be the character to inform AIGA that his understanding of resonance is flawed was genius writing. My previous criticism of Shu's lack of consequences during the finale of Burst God remains the same, however. Although I will say that the way the story is going about having the character atone for their sins has been a treat to watch. Shu takes on the role of AIGA's mentor, showcasing his new Bay Cho-Z Spriggan that is similar to Cho-Z Valkyrie and has this super awakening system. The in-universe explanation for how this mode is achieved is when the Blader and Bay resonate alongside a perfect launch, essentially when the truth of the Blader and the respective Bay align. The concept is similar to the Zexomorph mechanic in Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. All of this sets up an insane climax of the arc, as the only person left to defeat in Dead Grand is the king of entertainment himself, with Hearts once again fighting against AIGA. Before this fight starts, I expected AIGA to overcome the darkness inside of himself, achieve a true resonance with Achilles, and defeat Hearts. However, AIGA loses in the exact same way as his title match, masterfully manipulated by Hearts, resulting in a defeat where AIGA didn't even score a single point on him. A second defeat to Hearts was already surprising, but for the fight to play out the exact same way as before was very unexpected. I did not expect the show to have the balls to do this. The Burst generation continues to impress me with how the protagonists aren't always easily rewarded throughout the story. Until AIGA opens his eyes and realizes how destructive his obsession has become, he will continue to suffer. I love that the series remains consistent in regards to this plotline. There are consequences for being ignorant in battle. To my surprise, it ended up being Volt that would take the center stage during the climax of this arc, which is another reason why I found myself feeling that this season has not disrespected the previous cast. Cho-Z is a season of Beyblade that is the definition of subverting expectations. The fight between Volt and Hearts is one of my favorite in all of Beyblade Burst at the moment. I don't think anyone is really surprised by this. A fight including the most entertaining character in the series and the LeBron James of Beyblade, of course I'm going to love it. Plus, the fight includes the best OST in the series, Ambush. This fight also confirms that Hearts' resonance with dead Hades is actually a true resonance. Hearts' desire to feel the same pain as Hades works because he and the Bay both just love feeling pain. I found it to be pretty funny. But as much as I love Hearts, the peak of this fight was the conclusion. Seeing Volt win back the championship belt was so hype. The king returned to his rightful throne. After this fight, AIGA's obsession finally reaches a breaking point with Achilles' death, which for Beyblade standards was pretty dark. Now, I will say that AIGA's turnaround after this moment did feel a a bit rushed, but if the series continues to delve into AIGA's mental state moving forward, like having a moment where he almost goes back into achieving a dark resonance, then that would be interesting. Moving on, the final episode of this arc is a parallel to episode 1, with AIGA building his new Bay Cho-Z Achilles from scratch and rediscovering his love for Beyblade, culminating with AIGA achieving his Super Z awakening. This was a very cathartic moment. AIGA has had a pretty insane journey up to this point, from extreme highs to extreme lows, all resulting in a person that understands themselves better and is pretty much ready to become the champion the right way. The next episode preview confirms that AIGA will be having his revenge match against Heart, so I am hyped to see AIGA finally defeat him. Plus, Kit returning looks pretty good. I'm excited to see what Kit cooks up. I've just been loving pretty much all of Cho-Z so far, and I'm really excited to see how the rest of the season plays out. I've been saying excited a lot, I think, in this video. So yeah, I'll be live reacting to the rest of the season on Twitch, so make sure to follow me there. And that's pretty much it. That's all kind of what I have to say about Cho-Z. Also, again, let me know in the comments down below if you think this style of review is better, or did you like the previous way I did these reviews before. If you stuck around till the end of the video, I just want you to know that I appreciate you. And if you want to talk to me about anime related topics, join my Discord server. Also, consider becoming a channel member, another way to support me and I support you back with shoutouts at the end of the video, early access to new videos, custom emotes, and members only videos depending on which level of membership you decide to choose. And if you're someone that enjoys anime content that keeps it real, consider subscribing so when I hit 10k, you can brag about being a day one. I gotta get back in the kitchen to cook. Peace.